Good evening, everyone. This is Nicole Johnson-Starr at the PTSD Retreat Radio Talk Show. It is Two Whackos and Key Lime Pie with Kevin Lake, author of Off Switch, and of course, moi. And these two wackos are on it again today. I get to thank Kevin because, once again, he gets me out of a funk. You know, today was just one of those days where people were saying things that... But the good news is, Kevin... Exactly. So, folks, it's just awesome to have Kevin back. How's your week been, Kevin?
My week has been great. I'd like to say hello to everybody there. I want the link to the radio show so we can get as many people to listen as possible live.
Yeah, sure. The link for the radio show is www.Spreaker.com, and that's spelled phonetically: Sierra, Papa, Romeo, Echo, Alpha, Kilo, Echo, Romeo.com/user/the PTSD Retreat. So that's the radio show, and we'll have that posted on, it's actually posted on the Facebook page for the PTSD Retreat. So, Kevin, you've posted that on yours, right?
Yeah, but I'm going to go ahead and post it in line because you asked how my week's been going. In the last 2 weeks, my author's page has quadrupled in membership because of a lot of the articles I've been writing. Those are zero highlight articles and then publications going out. Joe was sponsoring on his webpage and all that. It's been giving me. So I want to make sure we get as many people on here listening as possible. There were two already listening. Okay, come here. Yeah, I know what you mean about when you talk about how loud it is when you type. I can hear you typing.
Share it with the PTSD Retreat. We'll post it on there as well.
Okay. So yeah, anyway, it's been a good week. I've been busy. I was sharing with you just before we went on the air, Nicole, things have been becoming more efficient in my neck of the woods. As you know, I read a lot, write a lot, and then as a self-publishing author, I have to also market a lot. And over the last 5 months, I believe, since my book Off Switch has come out, I've been blessed to find several dozen Facebook groups, and we've talked about these guys on our show before, who support me, who help me, who post my my soldier highlight articles on their walls. You know, some of these groups have 500 members, some of these groups have 100,000 members, and I'm as thankful to each and every one of them as I am, you know, each of them. Sorry, it's hard for me to talk and cut and paste links at the same time. Oh, which brings me to my attention. You know, Nicole had a rough day because she was trying to help someone who wasn't necessarily appreciative of the help she was providing, and we're not going to give any details, we're going to give the name, but, you know, guys, Nicole does not get paid for what she does at the PTSD Retreat. She has to go on, you know, she has to beg for sponsorship money to take veterans who have PTSD and other people that have PTSD, not just combat veterans, skydiving. She uses horse therapy, I believe, Nicole.
Yep, we got through River Chase Farms.
And she's got all these non-VA pharmacy medication forms of therapy to help people. Well, sometimes, you know, she's dealt with someone who wasn't appreciative and he's made some threats and not, you know, but I was sharing with Nicole, you know, it's been a good week because I've had time freed up because I finally collected a list of a lot of the group administrators that helped me with the veteran and the soldier group sites on Facebook to put my stories out there. So now I don't have to make 50 contacts a day to get 10 people to share my hero highlights. And if you haven't read the book, former U.S. Army, airborne, paratrooper, amazing guy, hand-to-hand combat expert, go to my author's page, Kevin E. Lake author's page on Facebook, and read that. Read about one of our living heroes. You can read about it on some of the groups that support my writing, such as Soldiers Saving Soldiers, Grunt if they could explain to me how I can make 50 contacts a day, plus write 1,000 words a day, is commented in that writing is for my hero highlight articles, my articles I write for Joe the Plumber's website, some other large e-newsletters I write for that have hundreds of thousands of readers, as well as the novels I work on. And then also read up to 100 pages a day, because I like to read 6 to 10 novels a month, to constantly work on my prose, my own craft as a writer, because it's nothing that, like Stephen King says, to be good at writing, you have to read a lot, you have to write a lot. It doesn't just happen. So if there was a way for me to make all those contacts I make every day, to get the stories out about our heroes that I'm highlighting, so that the world can recognize these heroes like Sergeant Dallin Hicks, like First Sergeant Byron Humphrey, who, by the way, is now in an active sergeant major's position with his unit since our article came out. And, 5,000 people, 5,000 people laid eyes on that article because of all these people, such as support the American troops, Whackos Heroes, which is a small group. They have 385 members, but I appreciate the fact that they support me. As much as I appreciate the fact that support the troops or get the F out, you have 100,000 members. Hey, here's my children's highlight article. Can you share? They say, yes, brother, people come.
That's awesome.
There's no way to do the work we do to try to help the people that we try to help without using the technology such as copy and paste that's readily available. So I'm not trying to dress this guy down. I'm not mentioning his name. I'm not mentioning the group, and I won't. He's trying to help too. But I want to let people know that, if you get a message from me, and most of you that get my messages, we go back and forth in a personal fashion. Once the communication has been started. Another reason I do this is because here in the Philippines, I'm 13 hours ahead of East Coast U.S. time. So while I'm messaging you, it's probably 3 a.m. in the morning where you're at, and you're probably asleep. And once you're awake and you respond, we chat back and forth. I've built some friendships doing that. But my point is, Nicole dealt with someone today who felt that the way she was doing things just wasn't suitable to his standards as well. So we're sorry to be on the air a little late, but we hadn't talked about 15 minutes because Nicole was kind of in a funk, and I dealt with another guy like the one I just explained about, who said that he didn't think I was a real veteran, that I was claiming veteran status to try to sell my book, and that he was going to do a background check on me, and once he confirmed his suspicion, he was going to make it his personal vendetta to destroy me. Well, that was interesting. I actually, I could have walked away, but I didn't. I actually let him know that there's a character in one of my books called Offswitch named Rob the Keller that he kind of reminded me a lot of.
Oh, shit.
You're helping a lot of people. I remember talking to that young lady that was on the show last week. That you took skydiving. Yeah, like she sounded like she was on cloud 9 and she right through cloud 9. And guys, I put the video of Nicole skydiving on that page. Make sure you go watch that. It's on the PTSD retreat page too. You talk about people having fun and a veteran and somebody that had PTSD that had fears because of that, overcame those fears and jumped out of an airplane, people. Because and Nicole is showing that, we're not victims because we have this business. Remember, people, you get it from rape or from war, from a terrible car accident. Post-traumatic stress disorder, they call it, is merely a normal response to abnormal circumstances. There's nothing to put your head down about. Get the help you need and hold your head high because you're not a victim, you're a survivor. And with that, Nicole, I think I've opened the show. I've been a little manic. I've been creating some coffee, anything. The world can read about former U.S. Army Sergeant Dallin Hicks. Okay, go to the 7UA Coffee page, read about Dallin Hicks. The 1st of March, I'm going to have another article about an amazing man. I'm not giving away his name yet, but not only is he a veteran who's deployed multiple times, he's getting ready to deploy again, and he, like Nicole, is running a veteran-centered organization here in the U.S. to get his brothers and sisters who are suffering from PTSD, TBI.
Okay, we definitely need to talk about him offline so we can get him on the radio.
We will. And now, Nicole, you're the host of the show, so you do some talking now.
Whatever. This one's you and I. I'm not going to take the full blame for everything. So, you guys, he brought up a really good point about the fact that PTSD is not something that has to stop your world. It's normal. It is normal reaction to a traumatic experience. And when you have something that cataclysmic happen in your life, you are going to react to it. And that doesn't mean, cataclysmic is not defined by one definition. Any one of you guys, your trauma, however something has affected you, it's going to affect someone else differently. So just because this person doesn't get trauma, doesn't get PTSD this time, doesn't mean they won't get it next time. And it could be something completely and totally different. It is not something that needs to be treated with kid gloves. It is a normal reaction to a traumatizing experience. And I'm going to go over to the PTSD comment that you made about, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. They're trying to change the name of it to change the stigma. There is a saying, and you guys know I mess these things up, but an apple is an apple is an apple. Okay? It doesn't matter what name you give it, it's still an apple. Yes, well, I'm using apple because I couldn't remember that. Consider it charm. Yes, but I was running with it. It was going good, and I'm actually going to stick with my apple because that's a good, perfect statement. You've got the Granny Smith apples. You got Fuji apples. You got all the Golden Delicious. Guess what? They're all apples. They're all different names, but they're still apples. And you're going to look at an apple, and you're going to say apple, and you think apple, and you react the same way to apple. Okay, PTSD, no matter how you change the name, the stigma is still there because it's still the same thing. The stigma has to be changed on an internal level, not on a superficial name-calling level. People get to acknowledge that it is a normal reaction to a traumatizing experience. No matter what that trauma is, it is normal. And if we treat it as a routine thing, we're going to have less individuals struggling with PTSD and being re-traumatized by it. Because so many people, he's laughing at something, I'm going to get him for it. There's so many people out there that are, there's so many people out there who keep getting re-traumatized because people say, you don't look like you have an injury. You're not broken. I don't see any blood or broken bones. You know what? It's an internal injury. It's an invisible wound. It is still a wound. It is still normal, and it is still something that can be treated. And like any wound, you're not going to hold a wound and let it bleed out. You're not going to sit there and hold on to it and just go, oh, it'll get better with time. No, it gets infected, it festers, and then you get gangrene. You take care of it. You don't want that stuff in your system. It's the same thing with PTSD. As a wound, it deserves to be treated as soon as possible. Otherwise, it festers and it becomes infected on the inside. So, folks, treat it like a normal wound. Get the treatment for it. And there's all sorts of different treatments. Now, Kevin used the word therapy. Let me go ahead and clarify something, Kevin. I'm not a doctor. I am just a soldier that happens to have some training, and that I'm using that training to work with PTSD because I have it and it has been working for me and others. These are coping in parentheses techniques, stress and relaxation techniques, i.e. alternative methods to dealing with PTSD.
Well, you know what, Nicole, I'm going to jump in. Cross your fingers so you don't lose your train of thought. That's what I do. Whatever you're thinking, cross your fingers and you'll remember right here. But the main point is, you're not a doctor, but Nicole, you care. And we talked about this.
Darn Skippy, I care.
When it comes to PTSD, so many of these other mental health illnesses or isms, it could be addiction. Having someone that cares is worth so much more than an army of doctors. You know, I mentioned at the closing of our show last week, one of the biggest saviors for me has been the unconditional love that I received from my son and from his mother here, my Sawa, which is their language for spouse. What is this time? I'm sorry, I'm speaking that. I can hardly remember the name sometimes. But just when you feel like no one cares, and you have someone like you, Nicole, from PTSD Retreat, and someone else from Kenny
Yeah.
Or my friend Drew from Honest for Sacrifice, who's spending 15 hours a day bringing attention to veterans needs, teaming up with honest God movie stars from Hollywood to
Yeah.
get word out about this condition. That means so much more than somebody that has a degree hanging on their wall that somebody went to, I'll plug the school in West Virginia University. By the way, here's a shout out to my friend Andrea Hester Ferguson, who spent time in the U.S. Navy. Thank you for your service, Andrea, to our great nation. However, she said on my Facebook that she's listening to the show and I still sound like a hillbilly. Andrea, you are a hillbilly too.
Instantly, Andrea, I like you.
Yeah, there you go, teaming up on me again. You know what they say, you take the boy out of the mountains, but you can't take the mountains out of the boy. Okay, so I'm over here on my little white sandy beach island, but I still talk like a hillbilly. Okay, Nicole, now, I told you to cross your fingers, so I'm going to cut you off. So I can make all my contacts and get the stories of my girl highlights out. Thank you for everybody who's helping me get these stories out so the masses can read about our living legends. Instead of waiting to read about them in an obituary when it's too late and praising them for 5 minutes and forgetting about them. And Nicole, that's part of my goal with this Heroes Highlight thing is to show that we care.
You know, I fully agree with you, and I would love to support you on that. Do you know that every single time you've posted those, you have only shared one with me? Only one out of all of them.
Well, that's because I just had the second one, and you're on my list to Sam tomorrow.
See this, folks? This is how it is. This is how you get... I'm totally going to beat him with a pillow. I'll tell Dear Lee to get him.
I told Nicole this offline, folks. You can work smart or you can work hard. And I prefer to work smart. I spent 8 years as a stockbroker before I went into the military, and I learned there that you can be busy or you can be productive. Two are as different as east is from west.
Yes, it is.
So I've got systems in place where I can reach the masses and get these stories of our heroes told in an efficient manner. Because I don't want to be a martyr and say, look at me 20 hours a day. You know, I want to be able to say, look at this, I spent 6 hours a day, and instead of drawing 5,000 people to an article on this soldier that deserves the attention, I brought 500,000 people, their attention to this. And I'm only doing it because of the help I'm getting out there. So, anyway, what's our topic for the show today, Nicole? Hey, in self-defense, I'm not being manic right now. Those of you who have been listening to the show for the last few months know this is the only time I get to have a full, meaningful conversation in the English language all week. So, Historia Kovasayan Lang, Trabajo y Uma, Lang, that means I've been speaking Visayan every day, day after day only. It's nice to be able to speak English again. Sorry, I don't want to abuse that. Go ahead, Nicole.
Now you guys see why I love them. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna skip all of this stuff. I want to actually talk about something because one of the things that Kevin has just brought up, Kevin is actually going to get another opportunity to speak in English.
All right, good. I hope I don't cuss as much.
I will definitely be there. I'm actually the guest host of Talking with Heroes program this week on Thursday, and what's so special about that night is it's the Voice of the Veterans night. All of you guys who love listening to Kevin and I, mainly Kevin, because I know you guys love Kevin. All of you guys that love listening to this every Tuesday night are going to get a chance to give feedback on Thursday night. This is Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. At Talking with Heroes over on Blog Talk Radio. Just a second, I'll be able to give you guys the Blog Talk Radio, Talking with Heroes.
That's 10 a.m. Friday morning my time.
Yeah, hold on a second. I don't remember that. Hold on, I gotta log in. It's Talking with Heroes. Okay.
You told me my sound is very muffled and you can hardly hear me.
You know what?
Having a hard time hearing me, Nicole?
I am actually tonight, though normally I don't have to. Okay, this one on Thursday night, this is going to be much, much better. On Thursday night, call in to the Talking with Heroes show. You can actually listen to it anywhere. You don't have to be stuck at your computer. You can log in from the computer, or you can call in to 626-414-3462. Again, that is 626-414-3462. And that's going to be the call-in line for the Voice of the Veterans Night, which is scheduled for Thursday, which is the 21st of February. It'll be 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that way you have an idea of when you'll be able to talk and touch base. And Kevin had better be on that call. So
Yeah, that's this week, right?
that is this week. This is this week on Thursday.
So I call into the same place here at PTSD retreat, right?
Yeah, you'll just call in on the Skype, and we'll do that, and it should work out for the. It'd be cool if you could call in via phone. Telephone. Yeah, I know.
They don't have telephones in the Philippines yet.
Okay. Well, either way, but if you guys want to give some feedback and you want to share your story, connect, give us your thoughts about everything that's going on. Tell us about this gun control. Tell us how you feel about your PTSD. Tell us how you feel about your service. If you're overseas, or if there's somebody that you love that's overseas serving, give a shout out to them. Please don't say their exact location. You can give a country, but nothing further. This is just for operational security. We always want to keep our soldiers as safe as possible. So you can give a shout out to individuals that are serving overseas, and you can also tell Kevin exactly how you love our show, Two Whackos and Key Lime Pie on Tuesday nights. So that's going to be one big thing I'm sharing with you guys. And we've also started the second part of the 6th series of the 6 senses of PTSD. We're on the hearing portion. Tomorrow night you'll actually get to hear from Bill Protzman. He is a musician that has chosen to give back to the soldiers by teaching them how to use music to affect their PTSD. And this is going to be a very, very interesting night. And this is a pretty late one for those of you guys on the West Coast. It'll be 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You'll finally get to listen to it at night. For those of us on the East Coast, thank God these things you can go back and listen to them later, because it'll be at midnight Eastern Standard Time. So two things coming up. So I'm just sharing that. And 3, guess what I'm doing in just a few hours, Kevin?
Well, it's going to be in the middle of the night there. I don't know, going for a night jump out of an airplane?
That would be really cool, because that would take care of my fear of darkness. No, I am actually going to be driving. I've got a client here, and we will be driving down to Florida to be a part of the Daytona 500.
Really?
Yes.
So, with the PTSD retreat there, something you don't have to do, something you started all on your own, something you beg people for sponsorship money to be able to do help people with PTSD. You are taking someone with PTSD to the Daytona 500.
Yes, and not only that, but we're working in partnership with Manpower to Horsepower. It's an awesome program that gets veterans off the street that have been struggling, gives them education. They leave the program with a job and with a degree or certificate. Their families are taken care of while they're doing this, and that's who we're going with. We're doing this in partnership with him, and he's going to be in the pits on the race course.
Wow.
So we're going to be working on on his PTSD. This is the racing retreat that's been coming up, and we're going to be working on his PTSD off the track and on the track, using this awesome experience. So, and he's going to be surrounded by a whole bunch of guys that have been through the same thing and are still pushing through, and it's going to be a motivation for him. So we will be, and tomorrow night I'll also be touching. That's actually where we'll be when we do the radio show. Not tomorrow night, but Thursday night. That's where we'll be. It'll have been the first day. So we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
So
you said you're doing SPR, so that means tomorrow morning when you wake up.
at 0300, we will be.
That's what time I got up today.
Yep. So I will be feeling for you. So we will be on the road, which is why we're keeping tonight's segment short.
Yeah, well, I told Shirley I want to keep it to about an hour myself, because I got up at 3 a.m. On the day we do our shows, I always get up at 3 a.m. to make sure I can get in all these contacts that I, so lately cut off the tape. Because, I'd rather lose sleep than have some of these soldiers we're trying to highlight lose out on some attention they can get because I'm sleeping in.
Yeah.
I got it all done, so yeah, by the time the show's over, I'll be ready
to crash out, yeah. It's interesting that you say, it's interesting that you bring that up, because my husband told me how many hours I have been putting in per week for this. He says I have been putting in over 100 hours a week on this. 100 hours. I didn't even get it. All I knew is that it's been long days, and he's the one that let me know how many hours I've been putting in on this. Isn't that amazing?
Well, I mentioned I make a lot of my contacts at 2 or 3 in the afternoon here, when it's like 4 a.m. back there.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 or 4 people that I know that are always online that time, and you're one of them. I mean, I never know if you're up late or if you've woken up early, but I know you're doing PTSD retreat stuff because I'm reading the things you're posting, the messages,
Yeah. It just...
And again, what's your salary, Nicole? How much do you get paid for doing that?
Oh, a beautiful $0.
Beautiful $0.
I would like that to be different, but you know what? I actually can say this. I get wonderful messages from moms, from daughters, from wives, husbands of individuals with PTSD. I get these great phone calls where they're like, I could just hug your neck. And I love getting those comments. So I get these wonderful messages of encouragement. And my mailbox gets filled with these things. I love it.
I don't want to embarrass the guy because the guy's a total, special forces stud, but the guy just did the article on Alan Higgs. I mean, Nicole, I'll get that article to you today. You can share with the PTSD retreat so you can read it yourself. But the guy, he messaged me after he read the article. I let him preview his. I did not let the first sergeant last week or 2 weeks ago preview his, because Alan Higgs is currently doing some classified work, and I wanted to make sure I didn't disclose anything that could endanger him. I don't tell where he does it or what it is he does. I wanted to, but he got back to me and he said that this was the nicest thing anyone had ever done for him, and that his wife cried after she read it.
Isn't that awesome?
It is. It makes the long hours worth it. It makes the 50 contacts a day for the last 4 months or 6 months worth it. It whittled down my list to 150 people that I know I can contact directly. They're going to help me. And again, guys, it helps me. I can't thank you enough. But yeah, it's worth it. To know that these people are getting the recognition they deserve, that they certainly earned, that unfortunately they don't get enough.
Yeah, and there's a lot of these guys out there. I mean, I know, I'm going to give you another one. I will give you another one offline, because there's this guy I know, there's 2 of them, and they have started a company, and they work full-time in the Army, then come back and run this company, and they take calls in the middle of the night to fly veterans to hospitals, to get them with their loved ones. I mean, these guys do this every single day, and they're working full-time, active-duty Army. And they've been deployed 8 or 9 times.
I just been in contact here in the last couple of days with a kid named Justin. I think their last name is LeBlanc. I might be wrong in this. Excuse me, Justin, if I'm screwing it up. Now, I'm going to keep on thinking my where he's at, but I will tell you, this young man is deployed right now, and he's running a Facebook group called Green Collar Vets. And what he's doing is he's helping veterans who are back in the U.S. while he is overseas on deployment find jobs, find housing, and leading them in the proper directions to further their educations while he's on deployment. And guys, it's because we have this saying among our brothers and sisters in the military, no man or woman left behind. That means even after we get home. I love being able to talk about these guys and girls like you, Nicole, who have deployed and you're back and you're doing all these things and staying active. But I also want to bring attention to a lot of the folks who are still suffering, they're still in pain. And guys, in the book Off Switch, I wrote it because I'm an author and I write, that's what I do. But I veered away from the paranormal, oogie boogie, ghost, monster type stuff that I usually write about, because I wanted to bring attention to these issues, the main issue of soldier suicide, veteran suicide, predominantly, in my wholehearted belief, in my own experiences, because of the medication from the VA and the Army hospitals and the toxic leadership within the ranks. Nicole, I hate to say, I have friends that I deployed with to Iraq who were abused by toxic leadership within our unit. We've been back 3 years now, and some of these guys will not leave their houses. They're molding to death. They're withering away because of how they were treated, worse than prisoners in a penitentiary. And I know you just dinged me. I'm checking to see what you said. Okay. Nicole reminds me of the time because I always go over. But anyway,
it's not just him. We both do, because we get caught up in what we're saying. Because all these guys that are stuck at home, all these guys,
they're stuck at home.
They shouldn't be.
I've got a friend. You know, I'm highlighting these heroes like Dallin Hicks, who's a hand-to-hand combat expert, and First Sergeant Humphrey, who's a sniper and an airborne ranger, and all these hoo-ha things. Well, I owe my life to a couple of my NCOs from Iraq who their MOS was field artillery, hoo-ha, combat arms. And you know what? If you wear the uniform, I don't care if you're field artillery, infantry, or a cook. You wear the uniform, you've got my respect. Okay.
Darn Skippy.
But some of these guys, they never jumped out of planes. They never did all this Ranger cool stuff. But they kept me alive because while we were going through hell in Iraq, not just the 130-degree days, but, you know, we were there during the occupation, not so much the war. There were still dangers, and 26 people lost their lives from the FOB where we were stationed during that year. There were the car bombs every day, the IEDs mortared all the time. It's plenty dangerous enough, but I know the people that were there before us saw a lot more than we did. But we had abusive leadership. I mean, you know, and I go into that in the afterword of my book, Off Switch, and those of you who have read it know all about that. If you haven't read it, go read it. But some of these NCOs stepped in direct line of fire of some of the other NCOs that were toxic to protect me. I was an E4, and to protect the other Joes. And man, did they take a beating for doing it. I mean, these guys ended up at the mental health clinics, getting therapy, getting taken off mission. Nicole, I'm going to share this story with you. 130 degrees every day in Iraq. Towards the end of the deployment, I finally had a heat casualty. I got severe heat exhaustion. I got the stomach cramps. The medic had to give me 3 bags of fluid. But I went out on mission that night. We had mission. We went. I got my fluids, kept drinking water. Yeah. Well, are you okay?
I was just shocked.
Okay. Well, anyway, well, that's what you do. I mean, when you're deployed, you do your job. Whether you freaking have stomach cramps or not, you do your job. So, anyway, the air conditioner goes out on our truck on the way back, okay? These are 8, 12 hours convoy security missions. My NCO, my staff sergeant, he knew I'd had a heat casualty that day. He said, Lake, you know, we were at a safety halter stop. He made me and the other guy in the truck take off our body armor, then take off our long-sleeved, you know, non-breathing jackets, ACU tops, and then put our body armor back on so this way we could at least aerate. And then he made us drink water every 15 minutes, the whole way back to base. I said, Sergeant, I'm not thirsty. I'm going to explode. He said, Lake, drink water. That's a direct order. Okay, I'm drinking water. He saved my life. When we got back to base, I was able to go back to the CHU and go to bed. I didn't have to go to the emergency room or back to the medics because this NCO was looking out for his troop. He saved my life. Well, we had a couple of our toxic leaders who were waiting for us on base when we came back from mission. Fobbits are called, you know, they don't leave the base. And I've got nothing against Fobbits, except you always buy all the good stuff at the PX while we're out on mission. Stop that. Save some of those Snickers bars for the combat arms guys that leave the green zone. All right, sorry. Other than that, I have nothing against Fobbits. Well, they disciplined this guy because he told us to take our shirts off because we were out of uniform. And oh my God, what if the sergeant major or the lieutenant colonel in charge of the FOB would have been there and seen us out of uniform as we came back from this combat security mission, right? So to punish him, they locked him out of our CHUs for 24 hours. We worked nights and slept during the day. So during the day, while everybody else is in a dark room with the windows closed off, air conditioned, sleeping for the next night's mission, this man was locked out of his quarters and had to walk around post all day in the 130-degree sun after having been on mission the night before and going out to mission the next night. And they did it to teach him a lesson because he told me, who had just had a heat cat, and the other guy in the truck, to take our long-sleeve, un-air-breathing shirts off and then put our body armor back on so that we wouldn't go down as heat cats and disrupt the mission and possibly cost us our lives. So that's the kind of crap we had to put up with, and this guy doesn't leave his freaking house because that's just one example of what he went through for a year because he was taking up for his troops and keeping us alive.
going to talk
Those are the
offline
ones.
about that guy.
Well, you know, I want to highlight these guys, but how can you write, you know, human being is a beautiful creature that's molding away to death because he's in the darkness because of the toxic leadership you had when you went on a deployment, you know?
That's wrong.
Sorry, now I'm pissed.
No, that's okay. That's something we deserve to be pissed about because...
To the mental health clinic and wrote him off as crazy and took his weapon away from him after he'd been in the sun all day and then he was going down as a heat cat. Sleep deprivation, heat exposure. You're crazy. Go to combat stress. Give me your weapon.
Okay, we won't go there. Let's just put it this way. You and I will talk about these guys offline because they deserve to have something done for them now. You know...
They went to IG and they gave these guys promotions. They had about a dozen complaints filed against them. They gave them promotions and pay raises.
You know what? I don't understand the Army's way of... I actually asked... I asked a very senior officer, I won't give names, why the Army promotes individuals out of the Army. I mean, not out of the Army, but out of the unit and give them, you know, why do they promote them? And I just got to tell you, he looked at me and I said, I don't understand why you guys are promoting the crap instead of promoting the ones who are doing the jobs and making sure the soldiers are still able to continue doing their jobs. Why is it that you're promoting those? Because it tells the other individuals that you have to be crap in order to be promoted. That doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way.
The units, not the whole armed forces, not even the majority, but within some units. I mean, that's what they did to these guys. They promoted them and bumped them over to a sister unit.
I don't...
They passed on the problem.
I'm sorry. You need to take away rank and then put him over to another unit.
Well, and Nicole, let me remind you, one of these guys couldn't even fit in an up-armored Humvee once he got his body armor on because he was so obese. Listen, this isn't a fact. I'm talking about soldiers. Front line of defense for our nation's freedom and security. There are standards in the military you must meet when it comes to height, body weight, the ability to do so many push-ups, run 2 miles in the Marines, it's a mile and a half, I think. You've got to be physically fit. This guy was so obese, he couldn't fit in a Humvee. He couldn't run 2 miles. I mean, but they pistol whip their PT test. They give themselves the scores they want because they're the NCOICs, and then they pass that up to him. And they promote these guys.
Okay, right now I'm actually out of shape. So I will actually say I'm one of these individuals that are currently out of shape, but that said, I'm also working to drop the weight that I put on because of a back injury. But there are individuals that have done that. I've watched an individual in my old unit, I won't say who, get promoted, and their weight and their height weight and their tape was so far off I could put both my legs... Well, we won't go there. It shouldn't happen. And this individual's now somewhere else getting a higher pay raise. And, you know, it just boggles my mind. And I'm just...
From my understanding, they started getting rid of a lot of these people right after I got out of the Army Hospital, which would have been about, 3 years ago this month. I got out February of 2010 after my 6 months stay in a hospital due to non-combat related injuries I incurred in Iraq because of our leadership. I mean, we're taking mandatory PT tests every 2 weeks on top of our missions. And the Sergeant Major in charge of the post put out a memo that said, look, we do not require PT tests in theater while these guys are here. We would prefer that they save their energies for the mission, but we're going to leave that up to each different unit's decision. We don't want to jump into your leadership. Pretty much the message that said, listen, read between these lines, don't be a stupid head. Well, they didn't. And mind you, too, Nicole, I was a 300-plus PT stud my entire military career. I've never gotten less than a 300 PT score in my life, except for once when I did so intentionally, just to do the bare minimum of the task to test during this time in Iraq because I thought it was stupid. And I, okay, you're going to make me take it, fine. I'll do enough to pass, but I'm not giving you 300. Guess what? I got a counseling statement that was reprimanded and disciplined for that by NCOs that had not passed PT tests since they got out of basic training. I'm like, you're giving me a counseling statement because I did the bare minimum to pass a test that you yourself can't pass. And they said, yes. Okay. book, Auschwitz, I dedicated to, the 81st Heavy Brigade Combat Team, for putting up with the stuff in Iraq. And I said, specifically, my unit, Alpha to the 146 Killer Artillery out of Montana, Washington, for putting up with this stupid.
Wow.
I just said that on the air.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am so grateful I have not had that leadership.
An NCO that cannot do 42 push-ups in 2 minutes and cannot even run 2 miles is counseling an airborne infantryman who's never scored less than 300 in his life in Iraq for doing the bare minimum task because he's trying to save his energy for the mission that night. When he goes off the base, unlike that NCO, be a machine gunner for convoy security mission.
Okay, we're going to let that go because obviously that right there is a whole show on itself. We're down to 3 minutes.
Well, it was a whole book. I run the whole book about it. Go read Auschwitz and you'll read all about the stupid.
Obviously, there's a lot of stupid out there. But, as Kevin and I often have stated, there's also a lot of really good folks. And
There is.
I'm going to say this, I'm so grateful that Kevin is actually taking on the job. It's not a duty. It is something that's so much higher than just a duty and a job. He's taking that project on to make sure that the people who are doing great are recognized now, not just after their post-mortem, because it's true, there's a lot of great guys. I will tell you that while I was overseas, I had the pleasure, I use that in the most unsavory manner, of dealing with an individual who gave me life threats and death threats because I wouldn't fall in line with what this person wanted. And I had individuals that stood up for me, and but then again, those individuals that gave threats are now promoted out, and we'll leave that alone. But these good individuals, deserve to be recognized. People who have stood up, and because of where they are and what they're doing, I will ask them first if I can recognize them on the radio. But there are people that kept me going when nothing else would. And there are individuals I will never forget. And if they ever need me, I'll bend over backwards and do whatever's possible to make it work, to make them get them what they deserve. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. And to all of you guys who are doing the good work and getting screwed over for it, don't stop. Please don't stop. Because there's not enough people that are doing the good work all the time, every time. So.
And you know what? You've got a voice now. I'm ETS. I'm no longer in. And I'm on a crusade to take up for the downtrodden. You get in touch with me on the Kevin Lake Authors page. I will keep your name. I'll keep you anonymous. If you're being abused, if you've got something going on, you need someone to talk to about, talk to me. I've been there. I'm no longer in service. I can say who I want, do who I want. I don't have to do 50,000 push-ups for doing it. But I always love the push-ups anyway because it only made me stronger.
Hoo-ah. And you know what, you guys, I encourage you guys, please read the book. If you're feeling like you're struggling and no one understands, read Off Switch. Read it. I challenge you to. Be aware. Leave your sensibilities, leave your desire to be perfect and your desire to have everything be in its place to the side, because when you read Off Switch, you get to read it from an Army perspective. There is cursing, it is extremely graphic, and it will grab you at the heart and say, this is wrong, this needs to change, and Kevin is doing an excellent job of making sure it happens. So you guys go to Kevin Lake's author page, go read the book. You can get the book on Amazon. Not that expensive, and please share it. And it's $3. You can't beat that. Sorry.
Listen, if you need help, and don't take advantage of those people, because I'm over here living on rice and fish in the Philippines. So listen, if you need help, or if you're working with veterans and you got a group and you think my book can help you or your group, let me know. I'll give you a free copy. Okay, I gave Nicole a free copy because of what she does, and I know she's going to use to help people. You want to read it, if you don't have $3, I know times are tough. If you're in uniform and you want to read this book, tell me, you get a free copy.
There you go. You heard it direct on the show. You've heard it from Kevin himself. And Kevin holds to his word. So I know that personally. So you guys, thank you so much for listening. This has been Nicole Johnson Starr, Kevin E. Lake with Two Whackos and Key Lime Pie on the PTSD Retreat Radio Talk Show. Have a good night, folks. We'll see you next week. And don't forget, join us on Thursday. Join us on Thursday for Blog Talk Radio. 626-414-3462. Rewind if you want to hear it again. Good night, everybody.